Okay, so I share my screen now. I hope you can all see it. So for those that are not familiar with idea board, you can click on the green plus here to add a sticky note and write your idea. You can also vote on the plus on the down corner left of each sticky note if you agree with one. So we can have maybe 5 minutes to share ideas. It's I would like also to share with you, because it's always important for us to have your feedbacks and what is important for you, what will be the most relevant for you. We are organizing 5 webinars as capacity building program until September 2022, but then we will have a second round of webinars, also capacity building. So, and we would like to build it in regards of the needs and what is most relevant. So please share your feedbacks also.
I just saw in the chat that some people cannot enter the link. Is this happening to more people? Okay.
Okay, strange.
It might have to do something with the browser, so try another browser maybe.
Yeah, good idea. I can share the link again, maybe, but please confirm that it works with another browser for the ones that doesn't work. Or you can also work in the chat, or write in the chat. That's strange. Okay, super. I see it's working better now. Thanks, Yara. Well, I see we have some general approaches, so the gender equality plan that comes back a lot, and how to structure one. And I see already some more precise topics, so hiring mechanism with the communication that fits well, awareness campaign, regularity also of gender action. Yeah. Level of representation. We can maybe now go to the next one, and don't hesitate to continue to fill in your ideas if you need time also to think about it and how you will start this approach. I will continue to share my screen and continue our presentation. And now share my screen. Yeah, can you see it? Yeah, I guess so. So yes, let's dig into our first tool and the presentation of our tool. For that, we have merge those two, let's say, in a guide that we are calling Guide Towards Gender Transformative Workplaces. And I will give the floor now to Sylvine to start to explain this process. Sylvine, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Marie-Lise. Hello, everyone, and welcome again, I would say. And those of you who might not be aware of how the gender analysis or gender self-assessment or what is gender action plan means, we are giving you a brief outlook of how the overall transformative workplaces could look like with this process. So let's start with our first step. Our first step is about planning. So planning means you have to start thinking, building from scratch your core team, where it would consist of maybe 4 to 5 members, or it can also be more, but depending on the size of your organization. And then you start building how you want to proceed in this process. Then the team should be diverse. Make sure if you are making a core team, 5 people, they should be from different departments. One could be from HR, one could be from administrative work dealing with data, one could be with the data analytics, one could be a gender expert, and make sure you have a gender expert when you are specifically working towards gender transformative places. Then the second part would be when you prepare, the team starts building questions, think about what to ask within the workplace is the time when you write some questions, but at what level you want to cater to. I would say there are 3 levels. Marlies, if you move to the next slide, we might be able to show the example. So here is one example of gender self-assessment toolkit, but I will explain you the level of application which I'm talking about at the moment. Attitude and practice is something that we all see in our workplace, the regular behavior that you have, your approach. So that's the time you think of questions related to that. If you have experienced sexism, or if everyone is comfortable talking about some topics, so you think about those type of questions in attitude and practices. For the governance, which is the second level, governance, responsibility, and leadership, it means that it's not just the data, not just you, but also the company you're working with. So your workplace should allow you some flexible hours. So is it possible or not? That's something not just one-sided, but two-sided, I would say. So how the company works, how your organization works, how much they pay, how much is there any difference for men and women in the policy, how the governance of the company is, and also the CSR is also plays a little part in here. And then the third point would be the program engagement. Program engagement means that the strategies that you are putting in, it could be in terms of policies, it could be in terms of activities that you want to do, how much involvement the people have. So that level of application would be the third category for you to ask question within your company, whether they have equal access to opportunities, to the training, or are women comfortable, are they applying for technical positions, are they working accepting the technical trainings or not. Usually it is observed that men are more aware of it as compared to women. So there is a little gap, and also the funding is also a part of it. So how you get more investors and fundraising is could be helpful here. So these are like the 3 levels for the questions that you can ask. Coming back, Marlies, would you please move back to the slide, previous one? So these are, after these 3 levels, I would say the next step would be to have regular meetings. You have your questions, you have a regular meeting to start the process, and then you disseminate the surveys and collect the information. And once you have the information, what you have to do is analyze it. Simple, right? But how you analyze it, that's the point. You have to analyze it from the angle of gender, which means you have to think about how women react to certain things, how men react to certain things, how other gender react to certain things, and then compare and make your analysis. And that's where the gender analysis comes in, or the gender self-assessment comes in, I would say. And in the next step in the findings, as we were talking about the meetings, results, and the SWOT. SWOT is something you don't have to go into detail of SWOT analysis, but SWOT is something you have to identify your company's strength, weakness, opportunities, and threats. So let me give you one example for each. So strength could be that you have your resources, could be market resources, could be people who are available to you, your renewable trends that you are following, so they can work as a good strength for you. The second could be moving to the weaknesses. You might not have funding, so that could be a weakness. Lack of female participation and lack of awareness. Whereas now let's turn your weakness into opportunities by diversification and finding subsidies and policies that can help you to build your company further. And third, like the threats would be like the uncertainty in the marketplace or change in the policies. So how you have to, threats are something that you are not aware of, but it's outside your company, right? For instance, inflation as well. So, but then now you have to be prepared to turn your threats into opportunities, or shift it to weakness section so that you can make it to your opportunity or strength later on, but not immediately. Immediately it's not possible, but eventually, maybe in 2 years time or 3 years time, when you have more capacity building, or you can cover up the lack of awareness, you might get a subsidy, you get, or when you have a new trend coming in, you might just have to prepare a little bit and get back in the market. So that would be your SWOT. Moving from this, from SWOT, you get a clear picture of the gaps from the findings, the needs that you have, your company's strengths, like SWOTs, strength, weakness, opportunities, and threats. Now combine everything to prepare your strategies, your planifications, where it comes with, you may make your gender action plan. OGAP is actually organizational gender action plan. GEP is the gender equality plan. There is a little difference in these two categories. Gender action plan is like an umbrella of strategies that you have, that you want to put in a proposal, and it's where you usually talk about gender mainstreaming and transformation, whereas gender equality plan is about having equality, the equality between the two roles, men and women, or the other gender, but it's more about focusing very much on the equality part. So moving on from here, I will start with the first 2 steps that I told you very briefly, and we put it as the gender self-assessment part. Marlies, please, next slide. Thank you. So when we say about gender self-assessment, what do we mean exactly by that? So gender self-assessment is a tool to examine the existing status of practices, policies, and programs within your organization, and to identify and assess the different impacts and effects that women and men and all the other genders have, and vice versa. The gender self-assessment is conducted internally, so it's act as a self-reflection tool to initiate learning, adapting, and building a mutual capacity strengthening within a safe environment. And the study becomes a foundation for gender equality or action planning, like gender action plan and the gender equality plan, just as I mentioned before in the planification. The gender equality plan, to give you more detail about it, it's a commitment of actions that aims to promote gender equality in the organization through the process of structural change. That's the exact definition. It's policy level, so you know you have to talk about inequality and imbalances. And gender action plan, as I said, it's the bigger umbrella topic where you bring in, you just not only increase the female participation, but you have to bring in their knowledge, their experience, and then develop the project. So it's one step ahead of just adding more people of different genders. The objective of gender self-assessment is to identify the existing gender-related practices and then identify differences in the role decision-making opportunities, how there are differences between men and women roles in your company and how they are affecting their life. And the last point is to basically initiate a critical thinking process when it comes to gender topic, whether to work on the equality or mainstreaming or gender budgeting. The possibilities are way a lot in the ocean that you have to just pick up what you want. Moving on from here to the principles. Next slide, please. So the principle, what do I mean when I say principles? Principles means how I can make my gender self-assessment good. So make sure that the first thing is that you ask everyone to participate. So use a participatory method. It is a way that when everyone is engaged, they feel they are owner of the process. They feel more involved. So it gives you better results. Being inclusive and diverse would be inviting everyone from different levels, not only from just the bottom level staff, but also the management board, treating every part of the company, every person of the company, asking them to be involved with the different backgrounds so that their voice can be heard and you can get more creative ideas from them at the end of the day. And as I already mentioned, gender self-assessment is a self-reflective process. It is a continuous process. So you ask the questions not just once, but maybe every year you ask the same questions to your company, to yourself, saying, oh, is it working fine for you or not? Are we still looking forward to having more people, diverse people in our company? Or are we still working towards our goal of gender mainstreaming or not? So these questions, the goals, objectives, visions that you have needs to be fulfilled. So it's a process again, as I said. And the last thing is it's a unique process. There is no prototype, no model that you can just follow. You know the 3, 5, 10 basic steps of each process, but you have to adapt it according to your company, your cooperative, your community. Because you can't apply the same plan what a big company of 1,000 people applied to a company where there are only 10 people. It needs to be different. So make sure it's a flexible approach and you make it as you own it. So moving on from here, I will take you to the process of gender self-assessment, which is the next slide, please. As I mentioned, showed you the first 2 points, the 3 points in the transformative gender transformative process. Planning and data collection is again the same thing about understanding the status quo of your company. Whatever data you collect, you have to put it through the lens of gender again over here, which means you are talking about salary transparency, you could be talking about gender bias, could be talking about family situation, but then put it through how many men feel this way, number of men, number of women, number of people who are from the other gender associated, are they comfortable with this questions that you are asking or the information that you have in your departments? that existing information. So make sure you not only use the primary information, but also the secondary information that is always available in the HR department or the admin department, which is long forgotten. So you need to retrieve that again. So from here, once you have the data, you analyze, put it from the scope of SMART. SMART as in make your goals SMART. SMART means like specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time bound. So this way your goals could be tangible. You might not, you can't say, okay, I'll do gender mainstreaming, but then never talk about it. That's not how it works. You have to get through the process, make indicators, talk about that, okay, within 6 months, I want to increase female participation. So that means you will be hiring people. That's a tangible process. So that's why we say SMART. We use the word SMART over here. From there, you have to find the findings and the SWOT. SWOT again is something similar what I said before about the company. And the findings would be from the data that you collected, primary or secondary. That's up to you. And make sure when you hear the term sex disaggregated data or gender disaggregated data, it simply means that you are looking on the data through the gender lens. And there is a difference between sex and gender. That's, I am assuming you all would know that at the moment. And the third step is planification. Again, that's something similar. Follow the SMART objectives, follow the steps that you had from the findings, your needs, gaps, the information that you have to prepare the strategies, prepare a proposal in your planification. And it needs to be part of the, it could be GEP, GAP, but also could be other plans as well. It's just not limited to these. And also make sure your plans are, when they are implemented, you engage more people, and at the end you empower them, not just with the information, with the knowledge, but empower them with the equality, opening the doors that were not there before, or let's just say giving the equal opportunity, making everyone empowered individually as well. And from there, you would know that, okay, we have worked hard. At the end, you will have a lot of strategies to build up and work in the coming, like could be for the short term, could be for the long term, and then you reach your sustainability goals that we all the companies tend to achieve for. And from here, I'll pass on the floor to Marlies, who will take you further into detail of planification part. Marlies, floor is yours. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Lynn. Yeah, thanks to have presented this gender self-assessment. I think it's also very often seen as, if you come to your organization or to your head management and you talk about that, it can be seen also as a police control a bit. So it's also important to know that it's really a tool to identify gaps, but especially opportunities, and where there is space for improvement. So it's also a way of, it's important to present it like that. So in the planification level, we have selected the gender action plan. For that, the planification step forms the basis for operationalizing the results of the gender self-assessment. Then we have the communication step, which is rather a transversal process at all stages. And we will also have a focus webinar on that on the 5th of July, on how to use and how to promote with a gender responsive communication. So the communication can be about the end product, but also the findings of the gender self-assessment, the measures that are adopted can be done internally, externally, in the office, into the public, and well, of course, it's emails, newsletters, social media coverage, reports or in-person staff meetings. And then finally, we have the sustainability step, which are basically the measures and actions to take to ensure the sustainability of the gender action plan, and that will enable you at the end to reach your long-term objective. So let's dig into the gender action plan. What is a gender action plan? So the gender action plan, it's a tool or a roadmap of strategy that one can adopt in order to ensure that the gender inclusive and transformative vision can be achieved in the workplace. It's also a big umbrella solution to solve gender-based problems within the workplace and projects. It has as objective to provide tangible targets to achieve, also plan strategy to implement, and lead to the overall objective of sustainability. So the process of a gender action plan will be first to start with the status quo. Well, the status quo is basically what you have achieved by doing the gender self-assessment, right? What you have collected on your organization's attitude and behavior, common practices, governance, policies, and project or program implementation. And also it's the needs and the opportunity identified through it. The identified needs, opportunities with what will help you to develop your long-term and short-term objectives as a step 2. Then we have the step 3, which is strategies, how to, and that will be basically defining activities and actions that need to be taken to achieve the objectives. It's really up to you on how you want to proceed with it, whether you want to work on different level or just one. Or, yeah, that can be also the strategy to bring attitude and behavioral changes. It can be on the policies or governance or program implementation. It can also be focused on gender dimension and as an umbrella topic, or could be a project level. Then we have the step 4 on indicators. So the indicators act as a checklist or criteria that can help you to not only monitor your progress, but also evaluate it for future development and action plans. You will eventually fix gender indicators in gender action plan. So gender indicators refer to quantitative indicators based on sex and gender disaggregated data, which provide separate measures for men, women, and all genders on employment, for example. It can also capture qualitative changes, for example, the increase in women's level of empowerment, or the increase in attitude changes about gender equality within the workplace. It can also measure the relation between men and women and all genders, or the outcome of particular policies or activity for women, men, and all genders. So when with the gender indicators, we are trying to measure gender-related changes over time. That is a situation of men and women and all genders and the resulting gap between them. And with a gender responsive indicator, we are trying to reflect an understanding of gender roles and inequality to encourage equal participation, including equal and fair distribution of benefits. So these indicators can be quantitative and they can be qualitative. I have some examples for you that could be the percentage of women employed in position of decision-making power in management position, committees or boards. That could be also the level of satisfaction pertaining to energy services, so adequacy of supply, process, charges and tariffs level among female customers. But that could be also the percentage of energy product or services that has undergone a gender assessment, for example. And of course, it comes back to what Sublinab said, gender indicators must be smart, specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bound. Next step of our gender action plan is resources and responsibilities. So you need to identify what resources are required to implement these activities. It can be staff, equipment, training, studies, and also who will be responsible, or who will take the responsibility of the implementation of the strategy and the activities? Which team, which department, who will take the lead and the involvement? Then, of course, defining a timeline and the tracking methods. So what are the deadlines to implement the strategy? How long will that take? Possibly also the tracking, what source of information you will use to track the progress of the action in meetings, in surveys, can be deliverable. Eventually also add the budget that you will need to implement such activities and strategies. And finally, the sustainability. So once the process completed and the new strategies are implemented, the next step is to monitor changes in the organization and ensure that the gender dynamic are changing. So in addition to monitoring, you can also use good governance methods, so like evaluation methods to track the progress, and follow-up surveys or interviews to have suggestions and feedbacks. For example, an evaluation could be conducted on a yearly basis, and survey could be conducted on a quarterly basis. It's also important to remember to keep your objective flexible and adaptable to progress and over time. So if we summarize now this process and what you would have achieved if you conduct these steps, is that thanks to the gender self-assessment survey, you would have identified the level of which your company fosters gender, identify where there is needs and gaps and opportunities for involvement, for improvement, and adopted strategy to answer to those through a gender action plan. You will also have shared this result and strategies to the employees, customers, clients, or networks through communication and external and internal communication. And finally, ensure the correct implementation and sustainability of this amazing work. So we are reaching the end of the introduction of this tool. And if you have any question now, please send in the chat or raise your hand. We would like also to mention that we have developed a toolkit on this gender action plan, but also gender self-assessment. So we will conduct in the partner countries some hopefully in-person capacity building program where you will be able to practice these tools. And you can also contact us if you're interested to receive guidance and support on these tools. But now, if you don't have any question that rise now, we could go to the breakout room and start to practice our gender action plan. I think on the chat there is no question. I just need to start to settle the breakout rooms. Yanis, yes, please.
Hi, Marilise. Thank you, and your colleague for the excellent presentations. Just to remind to everyone that W4RES is almost in full force in the coming period. Despite the fact that we are into the summer, the hackathons are scheduled in most of the countries. In Germany, in Slovakia, in Belgium. So, and I think in the coming days, we're going to have the announcements of the other countries as well. Hopefully, the hackathons will be events where we're going to have the opportunity to interact and be able to check what we have prepared further down the road. That's really important to know that we don't just take into consideration the situation overall in Europe, but also we take into account what are the situation in the national context. On this opportunity, allow me to announce that we have a date for the Greek hackathon. and we will organize it together with the Greek Association of Women Entrepreneurs. I think Mrs. Tartabasi, the president of the association, is together with us today in the webinar on the 14th of July. And I think this is a great opportunity for us to liaise with the wider community, especially with the private sector, where issues like that are not still so up into the agenda. So I would like to thank publicly Mrs. Tartabasi for this, for the interest to organize this hackathon together on the 14th of July in Thessaloniki. We are actually looking for the venue, and in the coming days we'll be able to announce this to everyone. Just before we get into the various rooms and to the activity, I could not stop myself to make this announcement. Thank you.
Thanks, Elias. All right, so we have a question in the chat. Thank you. Does the gender action plan strategy that you are proposing touch upon the integration of a gender dimension into project service design provision and our research and development as well? Well, yeah, of course, that's a challenge also, and the goal of women empowerment is this sector. And that's something that you can, so the gender self-assessment could also go through a gender, I lost the word, assessment of project and services, for example. And if it's some kind of process that are established and how to establish them also. So yeah, that's can be completely an example of strategy or objective to adopt in a gender action plan. So I will suggest now that we go to a breakout room. I start the rooms.
So I leave the floor back to Marilise, since you are back with your group as well. How was your experience? We can start with that now.
Thanks, Ungin. Yeah, good. It's always challenging. We see. I think it's it's challenging exercise in general. But we had really interesting conversations. And I don't know if maybe the group one could start to report in the plenary. So we would like to finish at 11:30. So I would suggest 1 minute, 2 minutes for reporting and see a bit what have been done in different groups. I was group 2, so you are group 1, right? Yeah.
I'm group 1, yes. Would anybody from group 1 like to share their thoughts quickly or summarize it? Or if anybody is interested, please raise your hand. Okay, then I'm doing it. So I will share my screen quickly. I hope you can see my screen without any black spots.
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. Okay, so we ended up choosing increasing awareness for gender equality in the whole team, and for that we decided to assess what needs, assess the needs, what they want, the team wants, and how we can do capacity building within the team to reach our long-term goal. So we had different strategies, and strategies were like involving top management, designing the needs. So the assessment tools to understand the needs. So you have to design the tools now in that case, and then design and organize training, and then the cross-cutting strategy was about the time frame and the budget. It overlaps in all the sections, but we still have it as a part of it. So indicators were to have like 70% of the management, 30% meeting the whatever goals and targets we have in there for the first year. So giving the percentages was the idea so that we have something tangible in our hand. So I'm not going in deeper in detail, but you can read it, okay? Rest of the information. Resources were basically having a call, involving people in their human resources staff, technical, and your equality, diversity, inclusive officer. The team itself would be also part. And then for the designing organization of the seminars or training sessions, it could be a one-day consultancy, or could be for a longer term as well. I'm just adding that now, but let's be more flexible with our resources. So then for the timeline, the idea was to share the results internally, but then giving it within 6 months, depending on how often we want. So 6 months could be, or quarterly, depends. Then 6 months planning, 6 months again. So I think the easiest way to, or the put anything for the first timeline would be the 6 months. So I think that's what I've figured out when they said 6 months. And then from there, the responsibilities were for EDI officer or HR staff for the involvement of top management. EDI refers to the Equality, Diversity, Inclusion Officer. I also learned that term today. And then HR technical people would be involved similarly. Tracking was to monitor through the reporting, getting your feedbacks, and the feedbacks could be 6 months. So it's something that you put in your timeline, but also for your monitoring part. And making sure that at least your training and capacity building program is reaching to 50% of your staff. So that's the overall view of what we decided. We did, instead of going for 2 strategies, we kind of subdivided it into 4 and added more things to it so that we see more into it. And that's it from group 1 side. I'm really happy they did this and they were really good. So it works. That's it from my side. I pass the floor for the group 2 to start. Thank you.
Thanks, Vivian. I think you're really the pro of the gender action plan. You always manage to finish the exercise. We have, yeah. So we have here the group number 2. We have chosen as long-term objective the good gender balance at all organizational level, and we would like to do it and to achieve it between 5 and 7 years. Our short-term objective will be to establish a women and gender-friendly work environment. And for that, we have at the policy and program engagement level, we are planning to adopt attractive recruiting methods that we would evaluate with the indicators of reaching equal pay and what is the status of equal pay for the same position and roles, but also the increase in the recruiting or the modification of the recruiting methods. And also, now that will be more for the second strategy. We would also have the second strategy, which is a work-life balance policies that will be flexible, that will be women and family and gender-friendly work policies. We will have as an indicator the ratio of women and men and all gender participation that could be assessed through some meeting notes or the invitation to events that women could be speakers and not only facilitators. So assessing this number, but we have also some regular satisfaction survey. We have fixed as a timeline of 5 years to implement our measures, and the department that will take the lead on that is the department, or the person that will take the lead will be the department leads and the HR. To track that, we will also use career progress assessment and annual assessment of where we are also. And a second strategy is to establish regular meetings or moments for constructive progress and engagement. Also use gender just communication and and could be, for example, also gender assessment of the website. And we have stopped here, kind of. So yeah, I can give the floor now to Chiara for the group 3, maybe.
Thanks, Marilise. Yeah, I will also share my screen. Give me a second. I hope you can see it now. Yeah.
Very soon.
We don't see it.
Yeah,
now we see it.
Perfect. So my group focused on the first long-term objective, the positive image of energy company as modern and gender just. We didn't pick a timeline for this long-term thing, but probably it's also an ongoing process. And the short-term objective is the gender education on the one hand internally, and then to present one to the outward or to external persons as being very gender educated. The first strategy is gender trainings internally and also organized gender events externally. And we would measure it, for example, with the participation number, who is participating, with the number of female speakers in the events, and the number of gender experts that are conducting the training. And also a later indicator would be the share of women in all the different positions in the company, also in management positions. And for this, we need especially gender experts and staff and other companies and peer groups we would like to network with to also receive a better education, and for sure money, funds and material to promote the events. And the minimum is a gender training once a year, but we discussed about that it depends on the status quo of the company, what is the awareness and the educational level at the moment, and an event should take part once a month. And the responsibility is the human resources team, and we would track it, check in the HR weekly meetings, for example, if the goals are met, and see if the events are going, like is there every month an event, and you can check it if there are any updates via the newsletter. The second strategy would be communication on gender aspects internally and externally. Indicators are gendered language, like who is addressed and how. Does the website show news about the gender position, and the number of gender brochures or material, like what kind of material is there that already includes gender aspects. We would need gender and communications experts, the communication team, and also money and organizational resources for communication training. And communication is an important aspect for a team or for a company. So it's an ongoing thing. We didn't set a timeline because you would always need to adapt it. And the responsibility is the communication expert, the communication team, or the PR person. And after a while, all the communication channels internally and externally should be monitored and analyzed. Yes, so this is it. And I would like to thank again my team for their input. It was great.
Great, thanks, Chiara. It's nice that we all took different objectives. At least we have a full scope of gender action plan. I will suggest that our side we clean this gender action plan and that you have developed. If you didn't have, keep it or took a picture, and we could maybe share them with you, so you can still have them with you. Maybe it's 3:30 already. Maybe we can take a quick picture all together. That would be great to have you, and thanks for all the ones that are still with us now. I have shared with you, in the meantime, you turn on your camera if you are comfortable with it, of course. I've shared with you in the chat a satisfaction survey of this webinar. It's important for us to have your feedbacks, and in order to improve it. Yeah, so please answer it. Okay, I see some faces, that's nice. We can maybe, all right.
And maybe do something crazy as well. Don't just stand there. Let's make it more exciting. I don't know. Let's,
okay. Yeah.
On your mark, Marilise, what would you do? Something, anything.
I would dance and freeze. Yeah. So 3, 2,
Oh dear.
1,
Okay.
dance and freeze. Nice.
Guys, before we leave, just two quick reminders. The one thing are the regional hackathons. You can check out W4RES website, where you'll find the dates for Slovakia, Germany, Belgium. If I'm forgetting a country, you can check the website. Most of these events will take place virtually, so I presume you may join irrespectively where you are. The Greek hackathon will take place on the 14th of July in Thessaloniki. In the next month, we have another webinar on gender just communication on the 5th of July. And the best is yet to come, as in September, another 2 webinars will take place, one of which will be about gender and energy communities. And I think this is a topic that would be of great interest, would be really worth supporting and participating. W4RES is really going from strength to strength. So I would kindly ask you all to fill in the questionnaire. It would be really great if you do it, because our colleagues are doing great work. Unless we provide our answers, we cannot prove it to anyone. All this material will be available online, and on the resources on your gender plans, you can put there for sure the W4RES, WECF webinars as very useful tools that you can share. Check again in our joint effort for the energy transition to be gender just as well.
Thanks a lot, Yanis, for this announcement. All right. Well, I hope you feel a bit more empowered and have some tools now to act. As I said, we will share with you the recording, but also what we have been working on today. I wish you all a great day, and I hope we see you for our next webinar on the 5th of July on gender responsive communication. Okay, have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.